During a party, you stand off to the side of the room, looking through the window down at the courtyard. Soft, unheard footsteps can be heard behind you. A nobleman, young and charming, has noticed you across the room and has taken his time crossing it. Not rushing, not hesitating. He stops a comfortable distance between you two. Not too close, nor too far. Just close enough to speak without raising his voice. Pardon me. I don't mean to interrupt whatever very important internal conversation you were having with that window. I only say that because you had the look of someone doing some very serious thinking just now. Either that, or the courtyard view is generally more interesting than I've been giving it credit for all these years. He glances briefly at the courtyard view, genuinely checking before turning his gaze back to you. I'm going to guess it was the thinking. He shifts his weight slightly, comfortable, settling into the conversation rather than performing it. A half-filled glass of wine loosely in his hand, not using it as a prop so much as just having it. I'm going to skip the formal introduction for now, if that's alright. Names at these things feel so official. Like handing someone a document before you've decided if you like them. You can call me whatever you like, within reason, of course. He turns slightly so he's standing beside you rather than directly in front of you. Both of you at a slight angle to the room, as if you've already quietly agreed to observe it together. He takes a small sip of his wine, then gently swells it in the glass. I've been at this particular party for, 2 hours? Perhaps a little more. Long enough to have made a full circuit of the room at least once. I've exchanged pleasantries with Lord Aldenmere about his hunting dogs, which, for the record, he will discuss for as long as you will allow him to. And I've sampled 3 different wines, of which only one was actually worth the glass it came in. Don't tell anyone I said that. This is Lord Vane's cellar, and he is very proud of it. A beat passes. He turns his gaze to you, genuinely curious now, not just making small talk. What about you? Have you been here long? As you answer, he listens, actually listens. His gaze stays on your face, not drifting to the room. Yes. These things have a way of stretching time, don't they? You arrive thinking, an hour, maybe 2, and then somehow it's midnight, and there are still 12 more people who want to discuss the textile trade negotiations. Dryly, a slight raise in his glass in mock salute. He glances across the room briefly, a quick scan before returning his attention fully to you. It's a habit, reading the room, but he keeps coming back. A little more openly, he decides you're worth being direct with. I'll be honest with you, and I realize that is perhaps an unusual thing to say to someone you've just met at a noble function, where honesty is generally considered a social liability. He briefly pauses. He looks at you steadily. I noticed you about 40 minutes ago. Not in a strange way. I was doing my own circuit of the room, and I noticed that you were the only person here who looked like they were actually thinking rather than performing. He glances briefly at the rest of the room, a quiet gesture, taking it all in. Everyone else here is playing a part. Lord Eldenmere and his dogs, Lady Servine over there collecting gossip like she's being paid by the piece, and young Lord Thorn, don't look now, who has been standing near that fireplace trying to look significant for the better part of an hour, and doing, I will say, an admirable job at it. But you looked like yourself, which in a room like this is honestly quite refreshing. He turns a little more toward you, easy, unhurried, like someone who has nowhere else he'd rather be by standing right now. So, Lord Vane's annual autumn gathering. Have you attended before? Or is this your first time navigating the... oh, what would you call it? A particular social ecosystem of House Vane? As you answer, he listens, a real pause, giving you space to answer. First time? I thought so. You can always tell. Not because anything is wrong. It's more that you're still looking at the room like it's something to be figured out. Which it is, generally. The second or third time you come to one of these, you stop trying to understand the geometry of it and just float. Or you spend the evening by the window having a very serious think, which is an equally valid strategy, clearly. Lord Vane is... he's a complicated host. Generous, absolutely. He knows how to fill a room. But he invites twice as many people as the space comfortably holds because he believes a crowded party signals importance. Which means you spend a good portion of the evening doing that thing where you're trying to have a conversation and someone's elbow is hovering in your peripheral vision the entire time. He glances briefly at a cluster of guests, illustrating the point, then turns his gaze back to you. I've gotten very good at the subtle redirect over the years. It's particularly a reflex now. What brings you to the city, if you don't mind me asking? It's a fair distance from the most of the surrounding estates, and the weather this time of year is... a dry, knowing look on his face. Well, you've clearly already met the weather. As you answer, he listens with real attention, not nodding along politely, but actually tracking what do you answer, his expression moving with it. Yes, that makes sense. The autumn season always draws people in. Everyone wants to be present for the trade discussions, even when half of them have no real stake in the outcome. There's something about being in the room that people can't resist. I don't say that as criticism, by the way. I understand the impulse completely. There is a certain comfort in being near where discussions are being made, even if you're standing at the edges of it. It feels like participation, like a proximity in its own kind of power. He pauses, more reflective, slightly dear. I've spent a lot of years in rooms where the actual discussions were being made, and I can tell you that from the inside it is significantly less interesting than it appears from the outside. Mostly it's just a great many men talking past each other until someone gets tired enough to compromise. The faintest smile spreads across his face, like he's mildly amused. He turns to face you a little more fully now, a subtle shift. But tell me, When you're not attending noble functions and making friends with architectural features, what does your time actually look like? What matters to you when you're not performing the social contract? He pauses slightly, gesturing to the room around you both. He listens. This is not a polite gesture. He's actually waiting for an answer. His gaze doesn't drift. And as you answer, his eyebrows raise and his eyes widen with genuine intrigue. Really? I wouldn't have guessed that at first. Though now that you say it, I can see it now. There's something very considerate about the way you look at things. Most people in this room are looking at things without really seeing them. You're actually looking. A soft smile spreads across his face, a look of admiration. I notice things like that as well. It's either an occupational habit or just a long-standing performance for people who are actually present. Either way, I'm glad I came to stood near this window. He looks at you for a moment, a smile across his face. His attention's caught by the music. He turns his head slightly toward the assemble, listening for just a moment. Oh, they've started the dance. He looks back at you, a beat of consideration, light and genuine. Lord Vane always times this exactly right. I'll give him that much. 2 hours of standing conversation and then music. By the time the dance starts, everyone is either grateful for the movement or grateful for the excuse to escape whoever they've been talking to. His voice carries a quiet warmth, like the observation has a specific subject. I find myself in neither of these categories at the moment. Though I will say the floor is very good tonight. They must have had it freshly polished. The candlelit is catching it in a way it doesn't usually catch it. That was a very elaborate way of leading somewhere, wasn't it? He looks at you directly, easy, honest, just a touch of warmth beneath the lightness. What I meant to ask, simply and directly, because I think you'd appreciate the directness, is whether you would like to dance. Not because the music requires it, or because it's the expected thing, or because Lord Vane's evening has arrived at that portion of the program, but because I'm enjoying this conversation, and the floor seems like a better place to continue it than this window. You can't say no. I'm quite practiced at being gracefully redirected. I wasn't lying about that earlier. A beat passes, and you kindly accept. Something in him settles, pleased, unhurried about it. He smiles and offers you his hand. Hand in hand, he guides you to the dance floor, and upon arrival, he wraps one of his arms around your waist and then holds your other hand. To the gentle rhythm of the music, the two of you start to sway slowly along with the music. He guides you into gentle twirls and small dips. His voice easy and conversational, as if the movement is natural. I should warn you, in the interest of full transparency, I am a competitive dancer. Not exceptional. I went through a period in my early 20s where I was under the genuine impression that I was significantly better than I was. I am now realistic about my abilities, which I think is the best anyone can honestly offer. He laughs quietly to himself. He turns to face you on the dance floor. There's a moment, brief, natural. He guides you into a light twirl, and then returns his arm to your waist. In the moment, brief, neutral, of simple setting. This is better, don't you think? There's something about movement that takes the pressure off conversation. I've always thought that. When you're both doing something together, the words have little more room to breathe. A moment passes and the two of you continue dancing, finding the rhythm together. There's a moment of silence, the two of you continuing to dance. He notices the music change, glances briefly toward the ensemble, then back at you. They adjust naturally to the slow tempo. They're slower tempo. They're slowing it down. I don't mind. The slower pace has made things a little more settled, a little closer, a little more honest. His voice drops slightly. Can I tell you something? And yes, I know honesty at a noble function. Dangerous territory. I've already acknowledged this. I came tonight because I was obligated to. Vane is a particular ally, and declining the invitation would have been complicated in ways that would have required a great deal of follow-up conversation that I didn't want to have. I wasn't expecting anything more from the evening than one drinkable wine and whatever new chapter Lord Aldenmere has added to the ongoing saga of his dogs. And then there was someone standing at the window, looking like the only real thing in the room. I'm glad I came. The song comes to a close, and people start to take their leave. He lets off a long sigh of reluctance, removing his arms from your waist and taking a step back to provide space. Unfortunately, all things must come to an end. I must say good evening to you. But there will be another party at Lord and Lady Hawkins in 3 weeks. I do hope you will attend. Maybe we can share another dance together. Keep that in mind.